actually. The educational pyramid is like this. It starts out with you put basic information here, and then it gradually builds up, and it never fills up. So for those of you who are experienced doing this, this is just adding to the knowledge base that you have that will help you break into or expand yourself into that market there. So welcome to the Wealthy Travel Agent Power Hour for the Secrets of Selling to the Fluent Traveler. I'm your host, Dan Chappelle. You've probably seen my face a lot, just like it is right now throughout the program, and hopefully that's okay. It was something that people have asked for a while. You're the first class coming through with the new format. The program was updated this in late 2017, and actually broken down from just 4 modules into 8 modules with a variety of lessons in there, so to make it easy to learn for everyone involved in through there. So some quick housekeeping real quick. Let's see, got to move on to the next slide here. So first of all, let's turn off all the distractions that you have. It's cell phones, email, anything else that you might have that's rolling around out there. This is your time to ask me whatever you like. We're going to go through. I've got a fairly loose agenda, but this is more all about you. So turn off any distractions that you may have. I only had one person submit questions. So for those of you, as we go through, if you've got questions or comments, there's a couple ways we can do this. Everyone is muted right now. So if you, I believe it's up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little sign that says raise your hand. If you want to click on that, that'll let me know that you've got something that you would like to share with either me or the audience, whether it's a question or a comment, and then I can unmute you as we go through. Or if you would prefer, you can just type into the chat box or the Q&A box. Let me see, let me pull up the Q&A box as well. And that way, I'll get to all the questions that we have. So it's however you want to do this. You can either raise your hand and I'll recognize you, or 2, you can just type them into the Q&A box and we'll go through. The questions that were submitted previously, we'll go through those first, and then we'll get to the questions that you have as we go through. And I think some of this will probably raise up some questions throughout the program here. So I have to apologize. It's new technology for me. I've been using it as a webinar for a while, but as a meeting, it's been new for me. Okay, so again, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. You have made a sizable investment into your professional education. I don't take that lightly, and I hope you don't either. It shows a true commitment to building your business. And creating a part of the business that you may have, as I said, or it may be missing. It may be something that you want to grow or break into. I also think it's important that you know a little bit about me. I mean, you've probably read my bio on it and everything on the website and everything else, and maybe you've listened to some webinars and things like that. But I think as a student, you want to get to know your teacher, and so feel free to email me and ask questions and everything else. I've been in this business for, oh gosh, I started working on cruise ships in 1988. Did that for about 6 years. Had my agency for over 10 years, which was where this started. This program started. We were mass market. We were selling anything to anybody, everything that they could take, and we were losing money. We were losing money left and right. We just didn't know it at the time. We thought that any sale was a good sale because it generated cash flow, and that's not true. As we later found out, our CPA called us up and said, "Hey guys, your cash flow's not good, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better, and so you need to do something, or you're going to have to close your doors." So we kind of pivoted at that point and said, you know what, we need to stop being all things to all people, and made a conscious decision to stop dealing with the bottom feeders of the world. There's enough folks out there that can do that. My job wasn't to compete with the Vacations to Go of the world, or the Costco's of the world, or any of the big discounters and online programs. I realized that for what we were doing, we needed to really focus on the local folks that were around and take care of them and then build our business through referrals. And that's exactly what happened. And we were very, very successful doing that. Uh, Once we made that commitment, literally, there was only 4 of us and we had to get rid of 2 people. It was just myself and my ex-wife, that we had to, sit there and regroup, and just the 2 of us started and then rebuilt that business going up. So it can be done, but it took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, and this is not something that happens overnight. This is something that's going to take you some time. The program may be 6 weeks long, but implementing it and building that business is going to take you some time. If anybody ever tells you it's 3 easy steps and it's quick fix and all that kind of stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. Building business does take time to do. So after building the business, we were fortunate enough to receive an offer that we couldn't refuse, and sold the company. After which, my ex-wife and I split up and had the opportunity to join the Carlson Companies, which is now Travel Leaders. And Travel Leaders, with the brand they had called Cruise Holidays. And so I came in and helped the franchises grow their business, through my experience as a travel agent, as a retail agency owner, focusing on affluent, help them build their brands and build their business up from a sales perspective. Because marketing, as you probably know, you've got a lot of marketing resources, you've got a lot of marketing going on, but no one really had a sales strategy. So a sales strategy is where we focused on to help them become more successful. And many of you may recall that I was when Expedia bought a company called Cruise Ship Centers, and you know them now as Expedia Cruise Ship Centers, they hired me to come in and start and run the U.S. business. And that's how I got out here to Seattle, where I live, where it's currently raining. It's absolutely stunning. This is our winter sun, and all is good. After Expedia Cruise Ship Centers, I went on and had the opportunity to become the vice president of sales for WindStar Cruises. I didn't know anything about being a cruise line executive, but I learned real fast. And as someone commented on one of the modules that they felt like they couldn't do it, or they weren't good enough they're not good enough to sell to affluent travelers. Well, that's how I felt about the job. And Amy Cuddy, who wrote a book called Presence and has one of the most seen TED Talks with over 44 million, calls that the imposter syndrome. So we feel like we don't belong, and we shouldn't be in the situation that we're in, and we're not capable of doing it, when the reality of it is we are. It's just in our heads, and we've got to get past that to get moving forward. So that's me. I have had a passion for sharing and teaching for my entire career. I've been helping other agency owners, from day one, and had the opportunity to get off the road and work with travel agencies and individual travel agents and groups like AAA and Nexion and Ensemble and so on, to help them build and get a focus on their upscale business. So that's me. I've got a wife, got remarried. We've got 3 beautiful daughters. We've got 3 dogs, and 2 cats around here. And we live in Seattle, and we absolutely love it. So that's me, and I hope you all get a chance to reach out to me, and let's get to know each other better. I think we can help. I can help you more by knowing more about who you are and what type of business you have and what your goals kind of are in there. So the impetus for the Selling to the Affluent program started many, many years ago with the shift that we made to the affluent, and that was targeting the right audience and making sure that our prospects were the ones that we wanted to deal with. And decided to take that knowledge, and I was encouraged by a number of people. Many of you may know Mike Marcheff, who's a speaker and consultant within the industry. A number of folks within the Travel Leaders organization encouraged me to do this program, because this is what really we can help other folks out there build a segment of their business that's really lacking. And one of the things I found after doing this is that a lot of people, they didn't just want to know how to sell to the affluent, they wanted to know how to help their businesses become more successful. So I have another program about that called the Sales Acceleration System that, don't worry about that. We're here to talk about this. But that's where I put that information and that knowledge into that to help out. But I'm here to help you with selling to the fluent now, and we'll move forward from there. But that's kind of where the program came from, and it has been a hit from day one. And a lot of people are, taking it, doing what they will with it. I can only take the knowledge to you. What you do with it from there is important. So you need to commit to taking action on what you're learning in here. And up to this point, you've learned a certain amount of information through the modules. And a lot of it has started out with, we're going to review this real quick, about what the opportunity is. The opportunity is huge. The baby boomers are aging. I'm the last year of the baby boomers from 1964. Our kids are gone, out of school, out of the house. We've got time. The mortgage, most of the mortgages are paid down or paid off, and we don't have a lot of debt. So there's a lot that's going on, that we've got a lot of disposable income. 50% of the disposable income in the market today is in the hands of the baby boomers, and we've got the time. The millennials, they're great. They're gonna come up just like everybody else did over the years. But right now, it's about the baby boomers. So in selling to the fluent, it's important that we focus on the people who are going to be our consistent customers there as a group, and that's the baby boomers. You're going to get the one-offs. Those happen. You're going to get the tech executives or the guy that's got his own business and he's in his 20s or 30s or whatever. But generally speaking, the folks that you want to be targeting to build your affluent clientele, they're the baby boomers. And the Gen Xers, the ones that are right behind us, my sister's age group and those kind of folks. And to do that, you should have a strategy. In the program, I talked about, the one thing that I encounter probably more than anything else in my travels into travel agencies with Windstar and cruise ship centers and all the agency groups I've been a part of is there's no real strategy. There's only one or two organizations that have a strategy that focuses towards the affluent traveler, and most of it actually focuses on luxury travel. And notice this isn't necessarily about luxury travel, it's about the affluent traveler and the person as opposed to the product. And it's a matter of getting the person into the right place. So we're not talking about changing your entire program, your entire business. Very few travel agencies in this world actually do, even 80% of their business exclusively into the affluent market. Most of them, their bread and butter is the Royal Caribbeans, the Globuses, and that kind of thing of the world. And the gravy money comes in with the Crystals and the Seabourns and the Tauks and the A&Ks and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where it's a piece of their business. It's a piece of the strategy that they have. And what you want to do is you want to take that piece that you're working on, the piece that you want to grow, and focus on building that. Commit the resources to that. That's another thing that a lot of folks don't do. They say, oh yeah, you know what, I want to build that part of the business. Well, great. What are you doing? What have you committed? How much money are you committing to your marketing? What kind of sales strategy do you have? What kind of prospecting strategy do you have? How are you getting there? How are you going to grow that piece of the market? And that's what this program is really all about. And at the end of it, you're going to have a plan that you're going to put together. The last module is actually taking everything that you've done throughout this whole process and putting it on paper into a one-sheet plan that you can look at every day. But that is what gives you that strategy. And you focus on particular products. Even in the affluent market, you're not trying to be all things to all people. You need to specialize. You want to get that down and tie that in as much as you can to something that's of interest to you, something that you know well, things that work for you. You want to dial that in and become known for that one particular product. Whether it may be world cruises, it may be African safaris, it may be river cruising. And when you talk about river cruising's become pretty general now. It's just like, 25, 30 years ago, you could say, well, I specialize in cruising. Well, you can't say that anymore because there's a lot of different segments in there. Now, the real opportunity in there is going to be with some of these smaller niche lines. It's still there with river cruising, no question about that at all. But you've got your small niche expedition cruising. Look at what Penant has done just recently. Penant is growing. They've made a commitment to growing their expedition business, growing it from a luxury level. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And the thing is, most people haven't heard of Penant. But if anyone has traveled on a cruise ship through Tauk and some other wholesalers, they have traveled with Penant. Penant does a lot of their businesses through charters. So while you may not be as familiar with a brand like a Penant, the public is, because they've experienced it before through the eyes of a different tour operator and things like that. So the strategy, getting your strategy in place is key, and focusing on that strategy and building off of that strategy, and not just looking at it once a week or once a month, just like a business. Most people take a business plan and shove it in a drawer. This is something you want to put up on your desktop or in front of you. I keep my stuff is right underneath my my keyboard, so I can pull it out, I can look at it. I've got things that are in front of me that remind me of what I need to be focused on at all times, so that I don't get distracted. Same thing with you. Stay focused on the opportunity. By having a clear focused strategy and building that business, you can take advantage of that opportunity. Now, module 2 is about, starts off in the mindset. And, a lot of times people dismiss, what a mindset is and how that affects your ability to build, not just the affluent business, but any business at all. One, you got to believe you can do it. Okay. And 2, you got to get rid of some things. And this is what we call get rid of the crap. Okay. And crap is criticism, rejection, a-holes, and whatever the other one is. Anyway, I got distracted there. And you want to get rid of your fear as well. So these are things that you want to really, truly focus on doing. You got to get rid of, out of the crap, probably the biggest one there is getting rid of the rejection. Learning to deal with rejection. This is a sales business. Whether you're selling, mass market product or you're selling to the affluent market, you're still selling. Okay, and the same basic skills come into play. And there's a lot of fear that comes into play with that as well, because a lot of times when you're dealing with somebody who, we may think is better than us, they've you saw the Golden Globes the other night, and everybody's dressed up and they're doing this and they're doing that. But you know what? They're no better. Those people on stage may be famous, but they're no better than you are. They're no better than I am. Part of what we do and what we do is we serve them. We're in the service business. We serve people that want to do things. Whether you're at a high level making $1 million a year, you're still serving someone along the line there. So we got to get past the fear and the rejection part of it, because it's a numbers game. You're going to have so many X number of prospects. You're going to make a certain number of presentations. You're going to close a certain number of sales, and that's using those numbers, you're going to be able to lay out your business plan and your strategy. But you got to get over the fear of that. And for a lot of people, that fear is about money. Money is they say it's the root of all evil. I think it's the root of why most travel professionals don't achieve the level of success that they want to. And it's not because they don't want to have that money. It's just they don't know how to deal with it. They focus on it as paying the bills and it's something that they have to have and to work on. Whereas, it's a way of keeping score for the affluent in most cases. So, but you got to get past that fear. And, remember, what may be, $3,000 to $5,000 may be a fortune to you. That may be a drop in the bucket for somebody else, but you can't make assumptions. We can't start assuming that people can't afford it, that they don't want to spend it. The fact is, most people want to travel in a manner that's better than what they live in at home. That's it. And so if they live in an affluent community, chances are they're going to want to travel in that same level or higher. So we have to get past, as salespeople, we have to get past the fear of the money and asking for the money. Okay, if you've already been through that segment of that, that they've already done their research. They know how much it's going to cost. There's no reason why we shouldn't just ask for the money and get over that fear of that. But your relationship with money is key. So it's, for a lot of folks, if you're stuck in selling, mass market product, you're sitting at home as a home-based professional, or you're in an office and you're constantly trying to compete at the mass market level on a pricing basis, you got to get past that, because people are going to buy what you sell them. So if you tell them that you're selling some higher dollar product, whether it's world cruises, whether it's African safaris, whether it's river cruising, whatever that is, once you start doing that, people are going to start gravitating to you. People that contact you about that, they know that that's how much that costs. It costs more than $3,000 Caribbean vacation. Okay, that will help you get past that. You start marketing those products and stop trying to compete with the online giants, because you can only go so low, and they can always go lower. So let's try to get out of that game. But getting over the crap, the criticism part is another area that it can affect you a great deal. Oftentimes it comes from family members and close friends. They tell you that you can't do it. Why are you wasting your time trying to build your affluent business? Well, if you remember from module 1, and you see what the opportunity is, and you see that you're making a minimum of 5 times what you make on the single, mass market sale, well, that's why, and you can shut them up pretty quick. The real way to shut them up is to actually start selling that and making some progress with that. But you're going to have to deal with that criticism. You're going to have to deal with that throughout your entire life. There's always going to be naysayers. The market is big enough. Trust me. There is plenty of opportunity in the market for anybody to become successful selling to affluent. It's just out there. Okay. We just have to make that commitment and get in the right frame of mind to do that. Okay. The fear, we all have that fear. That it can be intimidating. Actually, intimidation is a better word for this sometimes. People who of wealth and power can be intimidating. My experience with them is it's pretty much in our head. We have these misconceptions of what they are. What I found is that usually the higher up somebody is on the ladder, usually the nicer they are. The caveat to that is it's usually the spouse that is the one who is the demanding one and tends to be, the one that gives you a hard time if that happens. Most of the time, though, whether it's an individual or a couple or a family, everything seems to move pretty well. They know what they're getting into, so they don't have unrealistic expectations. So it helps to work on that. In Module 3, we stay on the subject of mindset. And we talk about ship, getting your ship together. As you all know, that's the title of my book, my Amazon best-selling book, by the way, is Get Your Ship Together. And SHIP stands for Skills, Habits, Inspiration, and Performance. And when we're talking about this in relation to how it affects your ability to sell to affluent travelers, you need to start thinking, okay, what do I have to do to become part of that group? Well, you're going to have to, put some things on your social calendar. You're going to need to get involved with charities. You're going to need to attend events. Well, if you're going to do all of that, what are your skills? Do you have trouble with cocktail conversations? How about, dining, making sure that you know how to eat properly? Social skills in people's homes, good manners, that kind of thing. That may be something that you have to work on at a personal level. On a professional level, some of the skills that you may have to work on could be the selling part, the actual selling part, because I'm going to emphasize this again, this is a sales business. And we've kind of made through a lot of over the years, the terms sales and marketing have kind of morphed into the same meaning, and they're very, very different. You have to have marketing. Marketing is what drives your leads in there, but it's a reactive process. Okay, and then prospecting, which is part of the sales process, is a proactive process. So marketing is going to help attract people, the attraction marketing part of it and the retention marketing part of it, but the prospecting and the sales part, that's where the rubber meets the road. Because if you don't do this part, You don't have money to pay for that part or any other thing that goes on out there. So, if selling skills is where you're not feeling as comfortable, there are a number of resources that are out there. As you get further into this, you're gonna learn more about the selling processes. But there's outside resources as well, books, tapes, videos are always good. Role playing is fantastic. If you're part of a consortium or host agency that has events, make sure that suggest to them that you do sales role playing, and have some of the organizations have sales coaches that can help you through that process. Okay, and selling to the fluent traveler, it's no different. It's all about relationships. So as you build your relationships, you're not coming out and flat out asking, saying, hey, well, like a used car salesman does. No, you're building the relationship over time, but you're doing it systematically. You're going through the process of establishing rapport, and then you're going through the process of qualifying, which is just simply asking a lot of questions, both, who they are, what they are, and getting to know them a little bit better and what their needs are. And then making a suggestion as far as what's best going to fit their needs. And then, where most people fail is they just flat out don't ask for the sale. And it's because they're afraid. And that's one of the fears that we want to get past, is asking for money. You got to ask. Most people aren't going to just hand it over. I play a game, sometimes because I'm in the sales business. I've been doing this a long time. And I've always taken the approach that I'm in the sales business. But I'll go when I'm shopping for something, and I'm dealing with a salesperson, I don't just automatically say, well, I'll take it, I'm going to offer it up. No, I wait for them to ask for the sale. Okay, and that tells me how good of a salespeople they are, or what their fear level is. So you can't be afraid to ask for the sale, and you just ask for it and keep your mouth shut and wait for somebody to answer. Okay, so that's some of the skills that you may need to work on. It could be, for me, one of the things in one of the roles I had was I don't dance, but I had to learn, how to dance as part of my job, and so that has helped me throughout my career as well. So things like that it's usually the soft skills that you really have to focus on more than anything else, because you are building relationships with these affluent travelers coming up through here. Okay, the inspiration or the habit part, you all know what good habits are, you know what bad habits are. The good habits are the ones that are going to help you get ahead. A good habit for you needs to be, I get up in the morning, I look at my to-do list that I either made the day before or I'm making that morning. What am I going to do today? Okay, and how does that relate to the action plans that I have set up, which you're going to get into all that later. But how does that, keep me focused on what I'm doing? Okay, and then of course we've all got bad habits, procrastination. I get on the Facebook every now and then, just kind of see what the comments are on the group or wherever. And a lot of times I see people, they're there, the same people there all the time, and I'm like, okay, so you're complaining that you're not selling anything, but if you put as much time and effort into developing the skills and doing the prospecting into the target audience that you want, if you were putting that time and effort into that, you'd probably be doing pretty well versus playing on the internet and commenting on what everybody else is doing. Inspiration, very simple. Inspiration leads to motivation. What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? This is something that, if you don't know the answer to it, I highly recommend, and I said this in the program, I highly recommend you take a step back and figure out what that is. Okay, you need to figure out exactly what's going on there for what's driving you. It could be paying for an education, and money's okay. It's okay to ask for money. That's your motivation, but be clear on what that is, because this is something you're going to do for a long time, and you want to make sure that you're focused and doing it for the right reasons. Okay, and then performance, you want to make sure that you're one, you've planned well, but two, that you're measuring the right metrics. Okay, and those are pretty key. And as a salesperson, it's how many leads do you have, how many presentations, or how many quotes have you done, and how many presentations have you made, and how many sales. That's it. You want to focus on that. And building leads is where we're going to get into in the next few modules, is all about, you know, using the strength of weak ties to build your business systematically for affluent travelers. Building an affluent travel base is not a mass market effort. It's not a mass marketing effort. It is an individual effort that's going to take you some time. Okay, but you have to, if you go through it and you do the process correctly and ask the right questions, and there's scripts for all of this later on, you're going to be able to do this. Okay, you're not going to have a problem doing this at all, and you have, as long as you make a habit of doing it on a regular basis. Okay, who's the affluent traveler? Let me ask you real quick. You know, put it in the chat box. How many of you have gotten this far? Into the chat box. 1, 2. Yep. I have. Okay. Few of you, you know, a few of you are a little bit behind. That's okay. You know, this is go at your own pace. Just finished module 3. Okay. So you're about to learn who the affluent traveler is. I like this. It's still on module 1 because it's still wave season. Good for you. Just get, you know, you make hay while the sun's out. So keep doing that. This is something you do to help, you know, for your long-term benefit. Take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you right now. But who is the affluent traveler? You know, it's fairly simple. You know, it's the you know, it's a lifestyle. You know, it's not always people that have a lot of money and that are always jet setting around. You know, Hilda sent me a note last night, I believe, that was an article from the UK about luxury travel concierges that have built their business focusing on, you know, the one-on-one, not saying no to anybody, and really focusing on that part of it. And that's a great way to do it. It's a 24/7 job. You know, it's something I personally wouldn't want to do, but these folks, that's their specialty. That's what they've chosen to do. Now, me, I chose to focus more on the clientele that I deal with and have always dealt with is the baby boomers and the aspirational. So it's the active people, whether they're active professionally, you know, on a professional level, they're physically active, and they're socially active. You know, these are people that you see out and about. These are the people that travel together. You know, they travel and they don't necessarily travel in big groups. You know, I've had questions about group travel. They tend to travel in, I would rather call it packs. It's usually 2 or 3 other couples together. Not so it's still manageable. They tend to go like that. They're the ones that you see at the golf club. You know, they play golf together all the time, and then they socialize together, and they go to dinner all the time. Those are the folks that tend to do that. So when you have your prospects, and I've said this in the program, I'll say it again, I'll say it till, you know, my last breath, is always ask, do you have friends or family that typically travel with you when you go on vacation? Because the answer is going to probably be yes. You know, it's probably going to be yes there. Now, one that's a real advantage is, and it's I think is one that's easy to focus on, is the aspirational traveler. Because everybody, you know, in certain areas, you've got those folks that always want to keep up with the Joneses. They always have to have the best, and it's, you know, and they're not afraid to spend their credit card on it. Maybe not necessarily the money, but the credit card. As long as the credit card goes through, that's all you care about. Your job is not to worry about how they pay for it. Your job is to collect the credit card. But the aspirationals are going to tend, these are the ones that you're going to have that may have started out on a Holland America or a Celebrity or a Globus or a, you know, some sort of tour like that, and they've seen what's out there, and they see how others are traveling, and they read the magazines like Departures magazines or their Virtuoso magazines if they're on the list, and other publications that are out there, and they're looking at this and they want to do that. Well, those are easy to focus on. So you want to try to get to those folks, because they'll spend more money to get what they want, because they want to brag about it. They want to tell their friends about it. They, you know, it's a lot of these folks, particularly you get soccer moms and stuff like that, it's kind of a competitive environment when they're, you know, talking about where they've been, what they do, and that kind of thing. So you'll learn more. For those of you who haven't got there yet, you're going to learn more about who the affluent traveler is, and it's basically broken down into the three segments: the active traveler, the aspirational traveler, and the actual affluent traveler. I have a client calling. Well, this is being recorded, Maria, so don't worry about it. You can pick up right where you left off as we go through. So that's a quick review of where we are to date. And this is where I wanted to, just kind of run you through that real quick. And we're going to now run into the questions that I've received up to now. So what is the best way to add quality leads to my mailing list so that it will grow organically? In one of the upcoming modules, we talk about what's called the strength of weak ties, and it's why people buy and who they buy from. Okay, so the best way to get quality leads is one, you got to figure out who that is. What is a quality lead? Who are you targeting? Okay, so that's the first step. Second step is, okay, from a product standpoint, okay, what are you focusing on there? Because the person that you're focused on has to correspond with the type of product that you're selling. So, if you're selling Azamara, for me, it's easier to relate it to cruise lines. So there's tour companies out there too. But if you're selling, Azamara or Regent or something like that, it's easier to have that profile customer that you're focused on, your ideal customer, who it is who will do that versus, that same customer may not want to go down to the Holland Americas and Royal Caribbeans and Princesses of the world. Okay, so first of all, make sure you know who you're going for. Okay, second, know your product. Make sure the products that you're advertising, that you're marketing, it goes along with who you are and what you're trying to accomplish there. As I said earlier, if you're just marketing, mass market product, that's all people are going to come to you for. Okay, so you want to put out there in your marketing, you want to make sure that you include higher end products. So let them know that that's what you're doing. So that's the reactive part. So in your marketing, you're letting them know that you do sell a higher end product or you sell a niche products. And that way, when they do contact you, they're somewhat pre-qualified for that. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, as I said, the strength of weak ties. And this is through, for all intents and purposes, this is a systematic way of getting referrals. Now, we all know, we always say, I hear this all the time, well, I don't have those kind of people. I don't know those kind of customers. All my people, all they do are they focus on, they just want to go as cheap as they can. And that may be the case for your current customers. But you all know people who are doctors, people who are lawyers, people who are professionals in other businesses and things like that. You know who they are. Now, people in those segments, they tend to socialize with each other. They tend to, from their peer groups is who they tend to be with. So if you go to that person that let's say it's your attorney, and ask, who do you know that might benefit from my services? And would you give me a couple of names? And that's kind of a paraphrase on this, and you get a couple of leads out of that, those are going to be good leads. And then you can reach out from a prospecting standpoint and ask the questions and make sure they're qualified. Okay, make sure they're qualified for what you want. And then you can just grow your business like that. You can do certain shows that are out there. If you focus, boat shows are actually pretty good to get leads if you're just wanting to grow your list. But organically means growing from within, and that's taking that seed, going to the first level contact, and then branching out to their second and third level contacts, and those become your quality leads. You're going to learn all about that in your upcoming module, so I'm not going to go too much into that. So that's in my opinion, that's the best way to do that. From a marketing standpoint, if you're marketing on social media, make sure that you're positioning yourself as an affluent salesperson and that you're representing an affluent product, and that will help as well. For group travel strategy, do I stick with a theme or do a little bit of everything? Well, it depends on you. What type of groups do you want to focus on? If it's culinary, I would kind of stick to that. Culinary tours in Italy, or culinary tours in France, or culinary tours. Think about this. When people travel, we can when we go to a restaurant, we ask, what kind of food do they have? Is it Italian, French, Chinese, Asian? What is it? Thai? So think about it that way. So focusing on specific regions and products and focusing on a theme, I think, is the way to go. You don't want to be a little bit of everything like Sears and Macy's and Kmart and all of these other stores that are out there, because they're the department store. They're trying to do a little bit for everybody, and it's failing. So you want to focus on a theme. Some of the most successful folks that I dealt with at WinStar was a gentleman out of Atlanta who chartered the ship 4 times a year to do culinary cruises. And he found his chef, and he brought all the, brought the food on, and he brought the chefs on and the sous chefs and everything else. And these chefs had followings. So once you get into, and start building your clientele from there, that's what you get known for doing, and that's what he's known for doing. So that's what I would do. I would stick to the theme rather than do a little bit of everything. Now, if you're just getting started, it may be that you do a couple of different things till you figure out what you're really good at. For me, when I was doing groups, it was incentive groups. Incentive groups worked well for me because I had worked on the ships. I dealt with the group leaders. I dealt with the folks from the companies. I knew how to run an incentive trip. So that was where my niche came in when it came to group travel, and we were fortunate to do pretty well with that. So what works best for you is really where you want to stick to, but I would stick and specialize in something there as well. How do I engage influencers on LinkedIn if they don't know me? Well, this goes right along with what you're going to learn in the next couple sections here. The strength of weak ties. I cannot begin to tell you how many introductions I have made. Now, let's take LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a business social networking site for the most part. It's not a dating service. Some people try to turn it into that. So how do you engage influencers? Well, one, you start with who do you want? Back to the original part. Who's your ideal customer? Who are you targeting? Okay. Then you go look on LinkedIn, and for instance, you come to me and you look at all the people who are on my LinkedIn. I've got almost 5,000 people who I'm linked in. Do I know them all? No. Did they reach out for me for something? Yeah. For some reason, I have grown in the chefs and culinary and the wine industry have really gravitated to me for some reason, because because travel and food and wine go together so well. But I may not know them. But let's say you want to do a culinary trip to Napa Valley, and you go through my LinkedIn contacts, which I've made public, and you find someone that you want to meet because you think that they'd be a good contact for you there. Well, I can make that introduction for you because I'm that common person. I'm what is called the strong tie. So there's you, there's me, and we're close together. That's a strong tie. This person over here is someone you don't know and you want to get to. Okay, so going through me to get the referral or the introduction to that person is how you get there, and that's how you're going to engage those influencers. First, you want to get connected to them. Then you want to post things that are relevant to them. Don't try to sell anything to them. When I get friend requests on LinkedIn and it's immediately followed up by a sales pitch of some sort, I get them from travel agents, I get them from web developers, I get them from you've got $1 million sitting in the bank in Dubai from the prince, kind of thing. I get them all, and I'm sure you do too. I immediately delete that person from my network. Okay, I want people who generally want to work together and get real introductions and aren't trying to sell me something. So what this does is it starts the relationship, and it goes back to what I said in the very beginning. This is all about relationship selling. So you develop that relationship with that customer or with that prospect that's out there, and engage them on a regular basis and get to know them through LinkedIn electronically, and as that relationship builds, then you can ask them more deeper questions about their travel and possibly how you can help them or put it out there. I have folks that come to me all the time. They tell me, hey Dan, I just got a job here. Great. You know what? Anything I can do to help you, just let me know. Okay, I'm here to help you. So we're here to serve, and that's how we engage those influencers. We're not trying to get them to buy. We're not pushy. We're getting to know them, and that kind of thing. If you have questions, and I'm getting to, I got 2 more here that were submitted. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A box there. Go ahead and type your questions in, and try to keep it as related to the first few modules as you can. If not, be sure just put your question out there. If it's something that I think could be answered later on, I'll tell you in the program. I'll give you an overview, but you'll get the deep dive into it in the program. If not, there's things outside of this program that are influencers, and that's part of why I'm here, is to help you deal with those. So any questions you have, type them into the box, and if you would like to actually ask that question verbally, raise your hand, and I can unmute you. And I'm going to go ahead and warn you up front. This is the first time I've done this way, so there may be some technical difficulties that arise from this. Okay. Oh, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is a great one. Luxury travel means different things to different people. What's the best way to convey the message that you do luxury travel? Well, if you're going to convey a message to people that you're doing luxury travel, it's all about how you position yourself and the products that you're focused on. I keep going back to that because that's how people view you. Their first impressions of you, look at your website. Okay, is your website a cookie cutter site from your consortia or from your host agency or something that your relative pieced together or your neighbor pieced together for you and doesn't look good, professional, upscale? Yeah, I mean, that's like the storefront of today. And it's the storefront, it's a Yellow Pages, it's everything. So you want to make sure that your first impression that you put out there is positive. You don't want to go over the top with it, but you do want to make sure that it's something that's engaging to them. The product, you don't want to necessarily pigeonhole yourself right off the bat and say, this is all I do, but because it's part of your overall strategy, selling to the fluent, not just, you're not, very few, as I said, are going to just do a complete pivot and do 100%. You want it to become a larger portion, a larger segment of what you do, but it's not everything you do. So start by putting out higher end product in your marketing and your mailings and your emails that go out. If you do a newsletter to your database, no matter how big it is, don't necessarily go for the cheap price $3.99 deals to the Caribbean. Put or even the $4.99 7-day to Alaska, because Alaska is getting as competitive as the Caribbean is. You want to put in there, maybe it's the Uncruise Adventures or Alaska Dream Cruises or something that's niche. Those things sell for $5 a pop. Start putting things out there like that on a regular basis. You'll start becoming associated with higher end travel. Luxury, it's up to you whether you want to position yourselves as a luxury, because the very reason the question came out, it means different things to different people. For me, luxury is a luxury for me is going out like I did this summer and taking 5 days backpacking on the Pacific Crest Trail. It gets me away from the phone. That's a luxury for me, and I'm sleeping in a tent. My wife, on the other hand, is going to want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton on the beach, that kind of thing. So, what's a good thing in the middle there? Well, that's what you want to look for, okay? But positioning yourself, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be that you're putting a Crystal or a Seabourn product out there. Maybe it's that you're putting a Holland America World Cruise out, or segments of a Holland America cruise that's 10, 15, 20 days, because remember, your target audience has the time, they can do this, okay? And you put that out there. Most folks are fixated on what I would call the short product, which is the 7-day or less product, okay? You want to focus on, longer, more expensive, higher end product, and people will gravitate to you like that. Hope that answered your question, and because it does mean different things to different people. In fact, luxury travel means something different to me today than it did 10 years ago. And that's the case for a lot of people. I don't necessarily need to be wined and dined and waited on, or have a butler or anything else. But I do, for me, luxury travel is making sure that the food is good. It's what I want. It's not over the top. It's cooked to perfection. The service in the dining room is phenomenal. That kind of thing. Outside of that, I don't need suites. That doesn't necessarily do it for me, that kind of thing. I will share with you this, though. The higher-end cruise lines and tour companies, they deliver it. They deliver it to the point that your customer will not want to take a step back in what they do once they get there. I've been on 100+ cruises, tours in my lifetime, in my career. And the one time that I did not want to get off of a ship was about 3 years ago, when my wife and I had the opportunity to sail on Seabourn in Europe. And it was by far the most phenomenal experience I have ever had, land or sea. And that was one that I didn't want to get off on. And you know what? It wasn't over the top. It was very subdued. We were very comfortable. Seabourn isn't the pretentious crowd that you think that a lot of people perceive it to be. It is a very comfortable, many people were, I remember sitting at the bar and they were talking about, well, I only bought one tie. Well, I didn't bring any ties. Well, I'm only going to wear this to dinner, and trying to compete on as far as how they're going to down dress than up dress. But at the same time, there's a lot of folks, the aspirational folks, that want that high level and they want to dress to the nines every night and get it out there. So it's different things, different people. But again, let's focus on the lifestyle. Let's focus on, who we're dealing with, as opposed to necessarily the product. The product is going to help position you, and then you draw up into that thing. In fact, back to that same Seabourn cruise, one of the couples that we met, he was a retired engineer. She was a retired school teacher. They weren't wealthy people. They weren't affluent people. But you know what? It was an itinerary they wanted to do. It was a brand they wanted to do. They had aspired to sail on Seabourn, so they did. And it came with a 2-night package at the Grand Britannia after the cruise in Athens. Well, they did the 2-night package, and then they moved to a 3-star hotel afterwards, because that's what they could afford. So you have a lot of those out there. Personal question, do you still sell travel to consumers? Yeah, I do. I don't actively go out and solicit it, but I have some customers that I still work with that have been loyal to me throughout the years. It's a personal choice that I've made. But yeah. So this is and when I share things with you, whether it's in this program or like we are today, I'm not just pulling this out of a book or out of a hat or anything else. This is from personal experience. This is from what I've observed throughout my career, experienced throughout my career, and particularly most recently when I was with WinStar, I had the opportunity to go in and work with a number of higher end agencies, and that's where this comes from. That's what you're getting as part of this is the culmination of all of that knowledge that I'm able to share with everybody out there. I don't sell a lot of travel anymore to consumers, but I still do a little bit. Again, it's mainly referrals. Let's see. And the last one. And nobody's put in a question yet, so if you got a question, be sure and put it into the box for me. Okay, let me move this out so I can see it. I know a few high-income earners who avoid booking with a travel agent because they believe that they'll get a better deal direct. They want to use frequent flyer points, and they get emails promoting lower fares directly from the supplier. How do you convince them to use your services? That's a great question. And it's, as far as my view on this goes, it's a matter of perception. Okay, educating them, the value, communicating what the value is that you bring to the equation. Because one, yeah, can they get a better deal from the supplier? In most cases, no. I'm not going to sit here and go out on a limb and say everybody does, that you can. But in most cases, the same price is out there. The reason is that the suppliers don't want to tick off the travel agency community because it's such a big chunk of what they do. But there is a belief amongst a lot of folks, and I've experienced this quite a bit in my career too, is travel is something that they don't think that a lot of education, a lot of effort goes into. It's something that they can call up an airline, they can call up a cruise line, they can call up a tour company and book things. And you know what, they can. But are they necessarily going to get the best deal? Maybe, maybe not. Are they going to be able to take advantage of amenities that you're going to be able to provide from your host agency consortia or agency group? No. You're going to be able to do added value. That's number one. So that's from the monetary standpoint. Also, if you don't realize this yet, some of you with cruise planners probably do, because there's a few of you here, you'll know that you can, as a travel agent, if someone wants to pay with an American Express Platinum or Centurion card, you can provide those benefits for them. You can redeem those benefits because it's a cardholder benefit. It's not an American Express travel benefit. Okay, so those are important things to deal with. We need to work on creating value for them. You got to let them know what you do for them. I've had this come up before where people say, well, I want to charge fees. Okay, great. What are you doing to earn those fees? If you're not providing any value, then why should somebody pay a fee? Or why should they use you in the first place? So what value do you bring? And this gets back to, again, when we get into some specialization, where you learn about different regions, you learn about different products, you learn about restaurants and things to do in the destinations. And I would focus on destinations first, and then products second, because that's people travel because they want to go somewhere, not because they want to go on something or travel on a bus or something like that. Get to know those areas as well. A lot of people do like to use frequent flyer points. Personally, I have over 1 million of them. I typically will take care of my own air when I do things. Okay, and that's okay, because it's not necessarily something that you want to get that involved with. It takes that onus off of your back and puts it on theirs. So if there's flight delays, because usually when someone goes on vacation, that's usually where most of the problems are, is with the transportation to and from. Okay, so I think that's okay. As far as receiving emails promoting lower fares, that is typically done last minute. When I say last minute, particularly in a affluent market, you're talking about the last 3 months or so, and those are mainly just to top off. Luxury products sell the same as they do mass market, in that when it comes to a cruise ship, it's the suites sell first, the bottom sells next, and it's everything in the middle. Tour companies are all generally the same price unless they have different hotel tier levels there. So sometimes they might receive an email, but it's usually a low lead-in price. Okay, when they actually call, or you were to call, a lot of times can't get it. And if they do, for instance, then you can usually get that vendor, that supplier, if it's within a certain period, to reduce the fare or give you a value add, such as an upgrade or something along those lines. Shipboard credit or tour credit, because they don't want to upset the people who are already there. Okay, because those tend to be the valued customers, and they try to keep everybody happy. So are they out there? Yes. Last minute deals are always out there to top things off. Lower fares, not so much. Lower fares that you can't match. Okay, so that gets me through all the questions. Any other questions that anybody may have? Nobody submitted any yet. Okay, well, if we don't have anything, what I would like to ask you to do is, as you go through the course, and remember, you're the first class that's come through the new, what I call the new and improved version, because again, it was just 4 modules that were about an hour and a half long each. I've taken it, broken it down into 8, and then divided it up into lessons, short usable lessons. Please make comments at the end of each one, and just let me know what you think. If it's something that you think is, totally wrong or totally out of line or whatever, send me an email on that personally. But, if it's something you like, because these comments will help others to be able to do a better job and maybe get it from a different point of view. Can we have access to past modules? Yes. Yes, you do have access to the past. When you say past modules, I'm guessing that you mean the ones that have already been released up to this point, or if you're talking about the old version of the program, that you do not, because that's already been, that was in a different system and it's not accessible. In fact, everyone who was part of that program has already been transferred into the new program. Oh yeah, no, this edition, yeah, you own this. So do you have access? Yeah, of course. You can go back to as many modules as you like. Once they're released each week, absolutely, you can go back as many times as you want to whatever module, whatever lesson you want, and you've got lifetime access to it. So when I do an improvement on the program again, just like I did with this, you'll get all of those for free. Basically, that's all part of this. It's a lifetime. You bought this. It's a lifetime program that you have access to. Hilda, great session. Thank you very much. Yep. Thank you, Hilda. And I want to thank Hilda because Hilda does a significant amount of upscale business. And I've worked with her in the past. And most of these questions came from her. So I'm going to encourage you, if you want to get the most out of this. Oh, I got a question. Will this be recorded to listen to later? Yes, it's being recorded as we speak. As we speak, it is being recorded. So you'll have access to this. You'll receive an email with the link to the program going forward. But this is your time, and next month. Next month, same bat time, basically same bat channel. I think we have it scheduled for modules 5 through 8. We're going to discuss the CAP plan and next steps. How do you implement that in the next one? And this is going to be, I got it blocked here, February 6th is currently when it's scheduled. So I want you to come up with some questions. Again, this is your time. This is your time to ask whatever you would like to learn, whatever you want to know about. I'm here to help. One more time, the book you mentioned. That would be my book, Get Your Ship Together, The Wealthy Travel Agent Guide to the other book. Did I mention, what other book did I mention? Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. Millionaire Next Door, that's in the program. Oh, Presence, yes, Presence, okay, I'm sorry. Presence, it's by Amy Cuddy. And I listened to it on audio, but she's got a TED Talk. And I believe on one of the modules, it came up yesterday. It was after the crap section, actually. I posted the link, but you can find it on TED Talk. Just go to TED Talks and Google and put in there Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. And it's power posing and all of this kind of stuff. It's about the imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you deserve to be doing what you're doing. And, do you feel adequate enough or deserving to deal with affluent travelers? Yes, you are. The whole reason for me to put this program together is selling to affluent travelers isn't just for Virtuoso. It's just not for Ensemble. It's just not for Signature and the other organizations that associate with upper end travel. That's where they specialize. But a substantial amount of that is coming from you. It comes from everyone. Okay? Because selling travel is still a one-on-one basis. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Anyway, so thank you so much. If you have questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to answer those as we go along. The recording of this will be sent out to you shortly, either later today or no later than tomorrow. And again, next time it's still just going to be us. There were 17 of you that joined the program on this particular session, and so this is your time. Ask the questions. You've got my attention, more or less one-on-one here. So let's get it out there and let me do what I can to help you out with your business. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and look forward to working with you further.